Well, hello. This is these are the four amigos today, Consulting Amigos today, and as usual, we've got our normal team: Ray Anderson, John Mills,
Hello.
Ed Lasik, and myself. And today we're going to talk a little bit about small business and artificial intelligence. Now, there's a lot out there on artificial intelligence, and so in many ways, those of you watching will kind of say, oh, I already know that or I've heard about that. But we're going to focus on small business. And there are not that many people that have talked about small business and AI. And that's really our specialty here. And so, we'll kind of start there. The interesting thing about it is that, and I'm surprised, the adoption of artificial intelligence by small businesses is way higher than I ever imagined. In some ways, small business may be leading in adoption, at least in small ways. I had the opportunity last week to meet with Jay Oberholte in a fairly small group. I think there are about 25, 30 of us. And he gave us an overview of what's going on in Congress. He happens to be our local representative in the House, and where he is the chairman of the new AI Study Rules Committee. And they put together really all the technical people that he could find inside the House to really take a look at these broad issues. And that's very interesting to see the kind of issues that they have to look at and the things they're running into. You wouldn't necessarily think about that as an issue, but for instance, the gnarly one is, where are the legal rights to the content creation? Big problems, big issues, no answers. And they're fighting with states who are already putting laws in effect for their state for AI. And in some ways, the federal government will overrule or will contrast or contradict what the state things are doing. California's already submitted 50 bills on AI. So not only is that a bureaucratic quagmire, then the broader question is, well, what in the heck's going to happen? Because there's only one interstate commerce regulator. That's the federal government. And anything that is online, including what we're doing right this minute, that's across state lines, that's interstate commerce. So it can't be regulated by states. So so those are some of the things that he brought up. One of the things that was really surprising, though, is he said that a third of all small businesses have already adopted AI in some fashion. Blows me away. Then,
Ron, do you think that's because it's already a part of the software they develop? So in other words, it's not that they actually did it, it's just part of the package that they use to develop their business.
it could be, and he didn't elaborate on how they were counting these people. So, I don't have the answer, a specific answer to that, but I suspect you're right that there are those who unwittingly are using an application that's got AI involved. If they have a CRM program, maybe that's got a little AI. It seems as though that a lot of people are using it to write letters and to communicate with customers and that sort of thing. And they may be just using pieces, and they may have some kind of an industry application, where their providers are integrating some of these pieces. And I suspect that that's how that's happening. He then went on to say that in California, the adoption rate is 50%.
Wow.
So, I mean, to me, it's an astounding number. I happened to see this morning and I apologize, I've forgotten her name, but I happened to see the head, the new director of the Small Business Association, and she had said that the adoption rate was enormous among small business people in the range of about 50%. So that sort of verified what he had to say. And so I think that we can safely say that small businesses are beginning to adopt this. They're not going to be holding back, waiting. They've already, well, they're not going to be waiting, but they have waded into the AI waters already. And so, there are lots of ways you can get started on this stuff to, kind of test it and see what's going on. So, given that we have an AI discussion here, what I did was I just thought, well, let's let AI help us out. So ChatGPT says that here are a couple of the ways they gave me. I just asked a simple question: what are the ways that small business are adopting? And they say number one is customer service chatbots, two, sales forecasting, three, personalized marketing. In other words, not personal, but personalized for their customers, predictive analysis, process automation, and another four or five things, virtual assistants, etc. So that's all fine. Under customer service chatbots, we've talked about this before, but AI-powered chatbots handle customer inquiries, provide instant responses, help businesses engage with customers 24/7 without human intervention. Now, you guys have used chatbots before, right? And how many of you have found that to be really efficient? As a customer, I really kind of question if, small business is going to be able to handle this very well. But just sort of not to leave the subject on the table. If you ask the question, just how to start a chatbot with AI, so how do you get started? And, it's sort of what you would expect. Define the purpose and the goals. What are you really trying to do? Choose a platform. From DIY platforms with user-friendly interfaces to others, ones like Dialogflow, IBM Watson, Microsoft Bot Framework, and open source frameworks like Raza, which I have not heard of. Design conversational flows, train the AI model, integrate with messaging platforms. So here we have it, just kind of an interesting, fun thing. And that is, you wonder what you should do with AI, ask AI.
Right.
And how do you start this? What do you do with it? And basically, you can get answers as to where to go. But I think there's some issues, and I think today let's talk about some of those issues that might come up, because after all, we're a very specialized group of small business experts with, 120 years of experience or more. And while we may not be AI experts ourselves, now I've used it extensively, probably 50, 60 hours by this point, but I'm no expert. So some of these issues are interesting. For instance, everybody can define a purpose, choose a platform, you get started, it works or it doesn't. Design conversational workflows. Let's talk about that for a minute. Have you ever had a conversation with a client about a customer service workflow and how they're going to handle that? And how many of them have done it?
Are you expecting a response to that question, or
Sure.
is that rhetorical?
So are we all stunted? We just don't have an answer. I think that this is where it breaks down, because I have tried to get, and I may have worked on this more than you guys, because it's kind of a marketing function, your customer service function. And I have tried to get clients who are small businesses, to think about capturing data so that they can identify problems that they're having, instead of just letting, say, the customer service department, answer the same old thing. Well, we don't do that, or, oh, you just turn the screw this way, or whatever. The question would be, well, if they call in with an issue, what is the issue? Have they defined the right issue? Have they is there a tried and true process that fixes the issue that the customer service person can follow? And can that be systemized in a way so that the right answer is achieved 98% of the time? My observation is this is really foreign to a small business. they don't really know how to do this. Now, John, you're a techie guy. You must have been involved in this kind of thing, and you must have solved their problem, right?
I have actually started using it through a couple of the apps and systems that we use. For example, we've got a property management online application that
John, we're having a hard time hearing you. You must have kind of moved into another spot. You were in really good shape when you started.
Okay, how about this? Is
Oh,
that
that's
better?
perfect.
Oh, yeah, that's much
Okay.
better.
Okay,
Perfect.
very good. So yeah, so a couple of the applications that we actually use on an ongoing basis that are nationwide applications have actually done the other thing. They're high-tech applications, and they use AI in the background, and they just in the middle of it. For example, we've got one where you want to put in a description of a particular property, and then there's a little note. If you'd like, just use our AI engine to do it. Just put down 5 characteristics, and we'll do the rest. And so I've started doing that, and believe it or not, they come up with extremely well worded and very appropriate phrases with a little bit of tweaking. It helps. But the one that gets me the most that I found I've been testing out and I'm starting to use as my favorite over anything else is it's a Meta AI, which I'm not necessarily for or against, but it's on a WhatsApp platform. And I've asked it very specific questions and addresses, phone numbers, and it's been able to give extremely good research. So very successful.
Now, are you considering you field questions from your business office tenants all of the time? Are you thinking about employing an application to help you with customer service?
Sorry, Ron, I missed that last piece.
Yeah, are you employing or planning on employing any of this technology for your customer service issues?
Yes, I am. And right now I'm doing it not as a direct first responder, I'm doing it as a second responder. So when we have an issue, we would use it as a research or some due diligence. And I'm finding that it still needs to be vetted or editorialized, but I'm finding that there are better solutions available if you use it. And the classic is I was looking for solar panels from China. And so you go Google that and you get every known distributor and person who's paid for advertising in your local area. Well, I don't want that. I actually want the manufacturer in China. And I go to AI and I get a list with all the Chinese websites, all the phone numbers and addresses. And so I'm like, now this worked.
Right, right. But how about customer facing? Are you ready to turn it loose and try and solve your everyday problems like my internet's not working, my phone doesn't work, the
Not yet. I
bathroom's
think
dirty?
I want a hybrid. I'd want a hybrid product that would allow us to program responses to certain events, because I think the way everybody runs their customer service is different, and depending on the level of urgency or immediacy for a program, you want to react in a different way. And so, in a way, it becomes kind of a programming issue. How do you put the ground rules in place for your customer service that would be very different for somebody else, but generically the same? And I don't think AI's got that expertise. I think we need to really go in and do that ourselves.
Yeah, I think that makes some sense. I mean, I have not gotten into that realm really with a client or myself, but I have used lots of AI chats for products that I'm using. And I have to say that it only answers succinct. Now, I don't use it unless I've got a very succinct and I've gone past the first couple of discoveries and now I've got a real problem and I usually need a real person. So it's not an initial easy solution, but I have found them to only work about a third of the time. They're not very good at helping me solve the problem at the, say, second or third state where, I've already tried to reset the app or maybe hooked to the internet. I've tried that. I've done 2 or 3, other issues. Start the unplug the router, whatever. And I'm now to the point to where I've got step 1, step 2, step 3. Okay, what do I do next? And I find that the AI chat, the chat's does not have the answers at that level. So then the question is, well, how do you develop that? And, how far should it go? How many incorrect answers are there? I'm a little concerned that some people will adopt this stuff too soon, and they will not have enough research on the solutions. And if they happen to be the kind of company where you use a lot of experienced people who know how to answer the question and solve the problem, they have not documented what the solution is for the problem. And I don't, my gut feeling is you need to really, really spend some time on that, because you're going to have incorrect answers, and people are just going to go, I don't want to use that. Then you'll drop it because you're worried your customers are going to, get rid of you. And so you drop it and you don't move forward on it because you put your toe in and you didn't do enough research on this communication flow. It comes naturally to people who do this all the time, but documenting that communication flow is something that is not natural at all in my experience in working with small business.
So here's the opportunity. Oh, sorry, Ray, go ahead.
No, John, go.
So here's the opportunity. I think there's an opportunity for an entity to provide an AI training tool for your customer interface that you would train with 2,000 hours, 3,000 hours. Every time you have an interface, you document it and you load it up so that its base of knowledge and the way you made the decision starts to be remembered. And at some point, you open up that database or the decision tree, AI decision tree, to AI to use as part of its decision-making process. And that will be a whole new industry, because then you get customized solutions for your very personal business.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Ray, what did you have to add to that?
No, I was only asking whether, as you or the rest of us were using this, were we struggling with being able to solve problems? Because, when it comes to what you just said about a company gathering information, small businesses are notoriously bad about that, and so they really aren't able to respond very effectively to a customer, on a person-to-person basis, much less using AI. And I wondered if you guys had the same thoughts.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, exactly. And as John had said, the training's issue, and the number 4 on, well, how do you get this thing started? Number 4 is train the AI model. If you're using a platform with built-in AI capabilities, you need to train the AI model to understand user inputs and generate appropriate responses. This involves providing training data, defining intents, entities, and dialogues, and testing the model to ensure accuracy. It doesn't sound like a one-man show.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
So we use a product. A lot of people use them nationwide called Flume, F-L-U-M-E, and it's a little device you put on your water meter out the street.
Oh yeah, I have one of those.
Right, and it's extremely accurate of detecting levels of water usage. Now, they're using AI in the background of this thing, and it's user input. Like, for example, I've got mine that will trigger a small flow of 0.15 gallons per minute over a period of 5 hours. It will trigger me. And based on that decision making, there's a slightly leaking faucet or a toilet that's cycling. And so you can use them to do these things. And the thing is, they've got probably, 50,000 plus customers who are all working through these notifications and what to do and how to do it. And so they've got this huge body of knowledge that they can deal with over time. So they could probably come out with a good solution.
Well, right. And I found, I can give you an example of that. In fact, I think you recommended Flume to me. That's probably why I have it.
I think I did.
And so when I was in Europe, it popped up and it said, and I ignored this for a couple of days. It popped up and said, you've got a small leak. Well, then the next day it comes up again and again. I'm going, well, that's 3 days. It keeps coming up. So I called my son, and I said, hey, I keep getting this leak thing. Can you just go look at it? And sure enough, he found it within a short period of time because of continual ongoing leak. Well, Flume had detected that and said it, and he fixed it. And I thought I was going to have to shut everything down to keep the leak from, but it worked out great. What an incredible product. So, I think there's got to be a sort of a corpus of customers or people in order to gather that at some level. I don't know.
Well, but here's the incentive. I think one of the reasons I purchased Flume originally, and now have done it several times over, is because of the information or the data that it will send out, and then the ability to fine tune it. If there was an equal product out there that could detect leaks at the same level of accuracy, I don't know that I'd be tempted to move to it, because I've already got a solution that not only does that, but it also is growing. And I know that their intelligence module is growing, and they're getting more intelligent as they go.
Right.
So, I think that's the new boundary for small business. Are you prepared to integrate technology into your business platform so that your customers can see that they have a future with you, as opposed to a one-ended relationship?
So your idea, as you mentioned before, if you did an industry application, we'll just say for plumbing, and if you had a bunch of customers and you got them on a system, and it was the vendor that was monitoring and training this system and then deploying that to all of their customers, then they would all have the benefit of these large data inputs and continually build better responses and train the AI even better, right? I mean, I think that sounds like a good idea to me.
It's sort of like what you do when you put in systems. You put a system in for an industry that's pretty specialized for all the problems and challenges of that industry. And then you go ahead and you perfect it, and then you sell it to other companies that operate in that industry, so that each company doesn't have to make this massive investment in this.
Right.
And it's economies of scale, I think, and I think it does make sense. And you bring up some great points, Ron. The opportunities here for small business are tremendous. And you think about, okay, what businesses are out there? I always look at it from a sales standpoint. Which businesses are out there that are being sold that you could use some applications on AI that you'd have to figure out, and it would take some time and some resources to do so, but you could really take that business and take it to the next level and really improve the relationship with the customers and the effectiveness of getting the job done.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. There is a huge opportunity for small businesses that have a little bit of a technical or an individual has a little bit of a technical bent to be able to grab a hold of these things, learn about it, and then specialize in an industry that they know, get 3 or 4 or 5 other people together, maybe help fund this for the development. But what an opportunity to pick a niche and then fix the customer service training issues for that niche. Wow. See, that's an opportunity to develop a great business with very little capital investment that could be, well, I mean, other than language, worldwide. I mean, this is a huge opportunity.
Yeah, particularly, since John had mentioned that, I mean, if you had somebody who was focused specifically on managing properties
You're
and
right.
the things you'd run into, I mean, it could be a huge opportunity in business.
John, this sounds like an opportunity for you to start a new business. Do you need any investors?
Yeah, well, that's true. And the flip side of that is opportunities don't turn into reality unless you have the competence to do it. So, so yeah, it needs to be a fairly big player who is very attuned to technology and already has a base of competence and customers that will support it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think you're right. It's really interesting. I think one of the other areas that we can talk about just briefly in our few remaining minutes is the issue of analysis and forecasting and that sort of thing, and things that you've done a lot of, Ed. Supposedly you can throw in a bunch of data, and it's going to do all kind of trend analysis, by utilizing large databases. Typically right now, so sophisticated small business people really never get beyond the spreadsheet basis. At least I've never had a client that got beyond that. And most of the time I teach them how to do the spreadsheet side of it. But, we're talking about massive amounts of data that are potentially flowing in on a daily basis, adding to that data. So you're going to have to access databases and so forth. So, being able to identify, say, customer trends, which I've done for a long, long time, that's a time-consuming process. When I start a project like that, I have to prepare the client for how much time it's going to take. Not only the number of hours devoted to doing the number crunching or buying the data, but the amount of time, distance, the duration it takes to get from A to B to C to D, so that they can finally get something. They just have to be prepared for that, because that can be a pretty substantial bill. I mean, I'm always happy to bill those nice ones, but for the most part, it could be expensive. Not many of my clients, can really afford that level. So what kinds of things are important to know about that AI should be able to do with numbers? You have any ideas on that, Ed?
Yeah, I would think it's touch points and data that's related to your business that nobody has a clue, because it's so much volume of numbers coming through. And if you could tap into that and build regression analysis predicting the future, that would be phenomenal. They're kind of doing this now. I see a lot of ads on Facebook for join my little club here, and we're going to use AI technology to pick stocks.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so to do that, they're looking at all the different movements of stocks over periods of time, and they have all this data, and then they can supposedly come up with more accurate regression analysis of what the future is going to be like. So to me, that's interesting, and Warren Buffett's a real big player in this world, on this topic, and so I think, and he's a smart guy, so he's trying to figure out ways to make more money, right?
Yeah.
And they're all justifying it by saying, well, the more money we make, we share it, and poor people that don't have access to this information now, or these resources, have an opportunity to make more money and improve the quality of their lives. That's what's kind of going on Facebook right now. I really don't know how to analyze it any further than that. I'm curious, and you sign up and nothing happens. So again, they're collecting data from a lot of people. I don't know what they're using it for.
Well, yeah, right. So, I'm thinking that businesses that have, as you mentioned, a lot of touch points, ongoing, say, well, we use plumbing supply. You've got plumbers who are using them, on a daily basis to be able to buy all kinds of things. And so this one customer who's the end plumber has got a long track record. And I would think that in a case like that, you've got so many transactions that, you're certainly keeping track of the volume, maybe the units, but probably not, but the volume that they're doing, and maybe in categories of business like tools versus parts, et cetera. And so they're doing that. But here's a situation where simply by allowing AI to take a look at all customers and all products over 3 years, you could develop some trends that you would never see on your own.
No.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
if you're a plumber, wouldn't it be pretty impressive to go to your customer and say, based upon our little ongoing program, you have several leaks in your system that we need to fix?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rather than calling you, asking you to come out and analyze, which
Yeah.
would take months.
Right.
You can be proactive, and wow, what a service to a customer
Well,
that
yeah.
could be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Amazon, who is effectively taking away a lot of the wholesale business from not so much builders. Of course, Home Depot's doing that, but they're taking away all kinds of, well, plumbing supplies and woodworking and tools and that kind of thing. They're taking away that business, and they are using AI at some level. Maybe it's proprietary. They're using it in order to make sure that all of the inventory is at the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
And therefore, they beat the little distributor who's got a county or a state, and they're trying to have inventory and they want to have the right time. But if you could really truly know that the demand for copper, 3/4 inch copper elbows is increasing faster than they might have noticed, it means that they're going to be able to anticipate that, grab those copper elbows before they're needed, order from their supplier before they're needed, and maybe even buy them before copper goes up.
Yeah, there's an opportunity for huge mistakes in this process, as we've all known. When you have a limited supply for a period of time and the orders rack up, and all of a sudden you fulfill those orders and you realize that 30% of them were over orders, and now you go into a decline of supply. This has happened in several industries. So I'm sure the analytics will feather that out, but there is an opportunity for a big mistake there.
You're right. And actually, that's a pretty big point, because no AI system would have been able to adjust to COVID.
Yeah.
Who knew that they wouldn't be able to unload the ships, in Los Angeles for weeks?
Right.
I don't know, would AI have figured that out? Economists didn't figure it out. And so that whole disruption has been something new and different. But I guess what I'm thinking, not so much that it would anticipate those, but if a small company something has changed about their buying habits, and the supplier anticipated that for that company, they could do a better job. And they could use their efficiency to lower the prices, to increase the volume, maybe to have it there at the right time, to keep them from going to Amazon or some other supplier, and keep them loyal. You don't want them trying out Amazon to see if they can do as good a job. You want them staying with you.
Yeah.
And I think
so I've got an example in the plumbing realm. In one of our buildings, we've gone to automatic shut off faucets. So you push the button, it flows for 15, 20, 35 seconds, and then shuts off automatically. Because we had several clients who would come in and they'd leave it dribbling, they'd leave it on. We've had a couple of people who didn't know how to turn off the unit, they just walk out on it. So we've gone through and done that. Well, guess what? Just today, I went to Home Depot, or I Googled Home Depot to see if they had any. They don't have any. They can back order them for you. But I just as well went on to Amazon, and I'm getting them in 24 hours.
Yeah.
It's $162 faucet. It's not a $30 faucet. Home Depot will not stock it because there's not enough demand for it.
Yeah.
Now they won't be stocking other things because I'm buying everything else from Amazon now, because frankly, Home Depot's range of products is shrinking because their accountants who are in control, the accountants have made the decision that they're only going to do so many turns. And Ron, what they've forgotten is exactly what you said. It's the 80% of the stuff is going to be 4 turns or 5 turns in a period of time. The 20% is what I need to go with it. And that's very slow. But if you don't have it, I'm going somewhere else.
Right. You're absolutely right. And in those cases where they're trying to mitigate this, of course, I used to be in that inventory management business a long time ago, very sophisticated software. And so I understand it really well. And so, I will go in and I'm looking for that one item. And they're going, oh, gee, we don't stock that one anymore. Like for instance, if you're talking about your irrigation system, you only need it once in a while, but you plan on your resource to have everything you need all of the time. There's no excuse for not having the one thing you need for that one time in a year. That's what the consumer's thinking. And you're right. The financial people, sorry, Ed, the financial people are doing a turnover analysis. And because they've got too much inventory and they're not very efficient, they cut back on those. They're forced to cut back on those things. And then this salesperson, the clerk will say to you, oh, it's no problem. We'll go ahead and order that for you or have it come to your house. At that point, I'm always sure to tell them, no, I will now buy it from Amazon. Next time I won't come in, I'll just go to Amazon. Now, that sounds a little vindictive. I'm not trying to be vindictive. I'm just trying to help them pass on a little bit of real information about customer behavior, because that's what I do, so that they can go to their supervisor or the buyer and say, I want you to understand we're losing customers. And I know we're supposed to send them to the website, but customers tell us they won't go to ours. They're telling us they're going to Amazon. We're cutting our nose off to spite our face. They won't do anything unless you have customers basically saying, sorry. And as much as I don't want to do business with Amazon, they're just too damn good. And they will get it to you tomorrow. Oh, Ray, turn on your speaker, your mic.
No, you said tomorrow or this afternoon.
Oh, yeah. Well, you're right. You're right. And I have had that happen quite a bit lately. I've been doing a project, so I'm buying hinges and all kinds of stuff. And I try to go down to Home Depot and think I can get it in the same day, but frequently I go down there, they don't have it. And then I go right on Amazon in the Home Depot store. I order it, and it's at my house that afternoon.
Yeah. Yeah, we've had that happen several times.
How do you compete with that?
When you were talking to our government representative for this area, did he make any comments about what are they going to do to power all these big computers that are going to be necessary to process all this data?
Well,
it's not going to be with turbines, and it's not going to be with solar. It's got to be something much more powerful than that. And I was just wondering if they're planning for any of that, or are they just going to let everything die on the vine?
I think that the answer is no. And he, would he talk about? I think I know what he would say, because he happens to be a business guy, also a software guy, and he understands that. And he would not agree with California's position at all. But the topic of AI is so big that it's like, why would you want to get into that? So no, the answer is he didn't bring it up. Nobody asked questions of the power. I think a lot of people haven't thought about the fact that we're going to run out of power, and the people in the know all agree with your statement, and that is we're going to run out of power.
There are solutions out there, and these little nuclear reactors that they perfected, and several companies that are listed on Wall Street are selling them, or trying to sell them, trying to get government to buy into it, because nuclear power, if it's used properly, is clean energy.
Yeah,
and it's very powerful.
Yeah,
it can supply all the electricity necessary to move all these computers in the right direction.
well, and yeah, to power our electric vehicles if we ever decide to buy them again. I mean, they're still selling, but they so over anticipated the customer acceptance.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, there are lots and lots of issues associated with power, and it's really, I suppose, possible that you could, now they're coming back with seconds in seconds on the answers to simple AI questions, I guess. But they're utilizing these enormous electric, consumers of electricity, these big NVIDIA chips that are just huge electricity,
Oh,
consumers.
yeah. Yeah.
And so, there may not be enough power to run these things. And so we might find that our answers are getting slower and slower and slower, just because they'll have to slow it down somehow, because they won't be able to power these giant, consumers don't see them, but there are these giant,
Yeah.
giant
Oh,
players.
absolutely.
Yeah, that just take, gigawatts of electricity, and we don't, the average person has no concept of this. All we understand are brownouts, right?
Right, right.
That's
And
right.
and how come I can't get at the internet? What's going on?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, this has been a fun conversation. Any final words from any of you on how small business should approach this AI problem?
Well, I
Well,
was
just
Wall
go ahead,
Street's
you guys.
treating this as is like a big event, and it's similar to when the internet was introduced. That's big. This is like building the railroads, what, a hundred years ago. This is a defining moment in many businesses' lives, and a lot of new businesses will start, and a lot of businesses will go to the wayside if they can't compete in this environment.
Yeah, that's right. By the way, SBA said that last year was among the third most business formations in history. So there are some new businesses really, really starting to happen now. Ray.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say we certainly know that whenever something new like the internet, as Ed mentioned, comes aboard, it transforms the entire marketplace. I mean, this is what's happening, and there are things that are going to be available to us and to the marketplace that we haven't even thought about. I think that's one of the amazing things about what we're seeing. The other side of this, and we haven't talked about, what are the problems that are created by this, and how are they going to affect not only us in business, but the society as well. I'm just reading, how kids are taking AI and they're creating all these nude photographs of fellow students, which, is an example of AI being used for nefarious purposes.
Yes, absolutely. John, any final words?
Yeah, I'm always looking at the unintended consequences and who benefits and who doesn't. Wrapped around this whole thing is this almost undetectable ether and the ether, the stuff that you don't see but exists, is wrapped up in the communications network servicing of all of these processes and products. For example, if your bank is overdrawn, what happens? You get a text on your phone. If your Flume sends out a notification, what happens? You get a text on your phone or an SMS notification. And you can go on down the list of every major corporation. They send you this information. Well, the winner of this battle is AWS. It's ironically the biggest business sector of Amazon. And it's not their sales and marketing. It is their information technology network that is signed up with every major corporation in the US for notifying you what's going on. The real winner in this is AWS, and we become so dependent on it, we don't even know. Everything we do online, we get notifications and verifications. That number that you have to put in, that comes through an AWS network. So the two-part verification, AWS network. Nobody tells you that. Nobody knows that, but that's what's going on in the background. So that's the biggest winner out of this. And Amazon's the biggest winner because they know how to do digital. They're certainly not a bookstore anymore.
No.
No, no, this is not your father's bookstore.
This
Yeah.
is not your father's bookstore, folks.
Yeah, it's not even your brother's bookstore anymore, right?
And actually, it's not a bad thing. We just need to be aware that we are so totally dependent on this almost imperceptible ether that is in the background that if that fails, we're dead toast. We can't even log on. We can't do a business transaction. We're lost.
Well, you're right, and as I was mentioning before we went on the air, I've got a new phone this week, and for about 12 hours, I could not do that double verification with anybody. And so here you go, you're doing this double verification. It's all dependent on having that phone and having whether it's the power that's needed or the software that's corrupted or the screen is broken. You can't get this stuff done without your cell phone today. It makes us very fragile. We're
It
very,
does.
very fragile. And it's an interesting problem to have. But we're a little off the subject in terms of AI. But however, behind the scenes, yeah, absolutely. We have to have these systems working before we become dependent on it. And many small companies will stay independent and say, I'm going to wait and see. So that might be okay. So,
Hey, John, to help us out a little bit, many of the viewers don't know what AWS is. Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, so Amazon Web Services, it's probably the largest group within the Amazon group. AWS is the actual web services. They have data storage, data notification, web hosting, VPN. I mean, it's the back end that you don't see. It used to be the IT manager would see it, but nobody else would.
Right.
you look at their profit and you'll see that the majority of their net profit comes from that division, not from their merchandise division.
Yeah, isn't that
Correct.
amazing?
Yeah.
But their merchandise division does so well because they have it.
Yeah, well, that's right. That's their secret sauce. That's right. So, well, gentlemen, this has been fun. And we thank all of you viewers who have made it all the way to the end. We hope to see you again soon. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Nice program, Ron.
Yeah, good job.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I think it's you of the group, you've been focused on the AI much more than me, and everybody's got to be more focused on it. It's the future.